Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello.
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports, so let's not waste any more time, shall we? Anything and everything that you want to find for the ODPH, whether it's social media accounts, whether it's the Patreon link, which Patreon's got something in the mail this week, the TeePublic store, the Parlay Points blog section, the directory, which, Pat, how many providers are we on?
115,000.
Sounds about right to me. I'm not questioning that. The classified section, which has friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcasts, Organizational Link Support, and Black Lives Matter, all the amazing pod groups we are in, and via Podchaser, anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find at odphpodcast.com. And we encourage you to do that, and we encourage you to use on the social media accounts the hashtag ODPHpod, because we find it, we interact, that's how we talk, that's how we build up the ODPH society, because we have a lot to talk about. So let us do it how we always do it during NFL football season on the ODPH. It's Locks and Leaps recap time. Pad, kick us off.
I'm going to start with my locks, and one of the locks I had chose was the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars because...
Reasons.
Well, no, because duh.
Yeah.
The Kansas City Chiefs emerged victorious 27-17. Patrick Mahomes, 26 of 35 for 331 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Trevor Lawrence, 29 of 40 for 259 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Isaiah Pacheco was the leading rusher for Kansas City, 16 for 82, no touchdowns. Travis Etienne Jr. Led for Jacksonville, 11 for 45, no touchdowns. Receiving, Christian Kirk, your leading receiver for Jacksonville.
$90 million man.
9 catches for 105 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Earned that paycheck, okay.
Travis Kelce, to no surprise, led for Kansas City. 6 catches, 81 yards, 1 touchdown.
I say reasons because this was probably the biggest no-brainer of the week.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Kansas City is rolling right now. Patrick Mahomes is in mid-season form like only he does. Love him or hate him, the Chiefs are just rolling on that offensive side of the ball. Their defense showed up, though, this game and definitely was giving Trevor Lawrence some problems. Albeit, though, this game was very within reach. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was a blowout until we got to the fourth, almost like the fourth quarter. Jacksonville was, put up 7 there, but still,
yeah, it was
within reach, and still, they're finding their way being a young team. Like, we often forget that with this, obviously, carousel of an organization, new head coaches, new quarterback coaches, whatever the case is.
Yeah,
it's always a changing leadership system.
Sure.
On the field, that is.
Sure.
So for Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's finally settled in. He looks like the number 1 draft pick we thought he was going to be, albeit though he's still lagging to where he probably should be, but that's no fault to his own, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the fact that he actually could put up almost 300 against Kansas City, I call it a win there.
No, yeah, absolutely.
And the running game, not really doing too much.
I mean, people speak praises of Travis Etienne Jr. I just don't see it.
See, here's the thing. He was great in college.
Sure.
But then again, how many times have we said somebody was great in college and then you get to the pros and then for whatever reason, it just doesn't click?
Well, more often than not.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing too. I mean, I know he's coming off a foot injury and,
sure,
and obviously being a running back, that is going to be something you're going to worry about. And I'm not saying that it's showing in his game, but I think the problem that he has is where you are great in college, you also have a great offensive line in college.
Yeah, Clemson had a pretty damn good line.
Yeah. So you don't have that, per se, in the NFL with Jacksonville.
No.
And I know a lot of times people come in and they think, they're going to recapture the magic. It just doesn't happen that way. Even though Lawrence and Etienne have played with each other so many times, like it's second nature to them.
Right.
And they do show signs of that synergy, but still growing for the NFL speed. That's why we always say you never see a rookie really develop in the NFL till the 3rd year because they finally get the speed of the game.
Right.
And unless you see it live, you don't understand it. It's one thing watching on TV, but if you actually go to an NFL game and see how fast everybody's moving, you understand it a lot more. Not everybody is going to be like Patrick Mahomes, who came in and just lit the league on fire, but those players just don't happen all the time.
Well, and you got to remember, too, Patrick Mahomes didn't do that his rookie year.
Right.
He did that like 2-3 years in.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, too. Kansas City was smart. They sat him behind Alex Smith.
Yeah.
And look at the dividends. Unfortunately, Jacksonville never took the time with Trevor Lawrence.
Well,
and
they couldn't.
Well, they couldn't, but you know what? It's one of those situations, too, with an organization. You almost have to really think about your franchise moving forward. This is going to be your guy. This was supposed to be your Peyton Manning. This was supposed to be your Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be the savior of the franchise. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And I think the case with Lawrence is I think he will be a good NFL quarterback. I don't think he's going to be that great, but I think now he's starting to show some progress even in defeat. Because, I mean, Kansas City did Kansas City things. I'm not going to dwell too much on them, but they're doing what they do, especially at home.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of things went in their favor, and it usually does. They're tough at home. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's nothing to really cry about for Trevor Lawrence. 259-2 is for against Kansas City's great. And the fact that it was only a 10-point loss to Kansas City, great. He's making progress. I think he's got a lot of upside, to be a good quarterback. Will he be a great quarterback or an amazing quarterback? You never know. I mean, he's certainly got some pieces around him. It's just putting those pieces together ultimately and seeing the larger puzzle. Looking at the schedules for both of these teams coming up, for Kansas City, they have got the Los Angeles Chargers this upcoming week on Sunday Night Football. After that, they've got the Los Angeles Rams after that, and then the Cincinnati Bengals and the Denver Broncos. And then for the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're actually off this upcoming week. They come back from the bye week playing the Baltimore Ravens, Detroit Lions, and then the Tennessee Titans.
Slightly tough stretch for them. But, I mean, I think the eyes are going to be focused on Kansas City, obviously being the number one seed right now in the AFC.
Yeah.
Can they maintain this? I mean, that's going to be the question now for them moving forward.
Yeah.
They're looking like the perennial playoff contender that we've seen over the past few years. So they're playing at such a high level. It's just you got to watch out for injuries, and can you really get your running game doing more consistency? Then that's going to be the question for them moving forward. I think they will be fine. Obviously, getting in the playoffs, I don't think is going to be an issue for them. But how far they go is really going to be anybody's guess because more teams are catching up to them, and you're starting to see a little more parity there. Because obviously, being 7-2 is nothing to sneeze about.
No.
But there's a lot of teams hovering around that 6-3 mark too that you got to keep an eye out for. So that said, Pat, who'd you have next?
We'll go to one of my leaps, and that was the Arizona Cardinals to beat the Los Angeles Rams. No Kyler Murray in this game. No Matthew Stafford in this game. So you had no clue how this was going to fucking go. And you had Arizona emerge victorious by the final score of 27-17. Colt McCoy, yes, folks, Colt McCoy is still in the NFL. 26 of 37 for 238 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. John Wolford. Yeah, exactly. 24 of 36 for 212 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. James Conner, your leading rusher for Arizona, 21 for 69 and 2 touchdowns. Cam Akers was your leading rusher for Los Angeles, although only by a yard. 6 for 22, no touchdowns. There's a reason I dropped his ass in fantasy, and that's it. Leading receiver for Arizona was DeAndre Hopkins, 10 for 98, no touchdowns. And then for Los Angeles, your leading receiver was Tyler Higbee, 8 for 73 and no touchdowns.
Well, that makes sense for Higbee because he's their tight end, and obviously a quarterback's best friend is the tight end.
Well, and especially with, Cooper Kupp going down with his injury.
Yeah, I heard IR, so I think...
Pulling it up right now.
Yeah, he's unfortunately going to be...
Cooper Kupp, yeah, he's looking at ESPN.com on the Rams injury report listed for today as we record. It says Cooper Kupp, status, injured reserve. Rams head coach Sean McVay said Tuesday that Kupp will require surgery to address his right high ankle sprain and will be placed on injured reserve, this according to Adam Schefter.
Well, I think at this stage, the Rams are 3-6. Why risk it? I think Stafford, too, the same thing. We've been screaming on this podcast for a couple weeks now. Sit him.
They're currently last place in the NFC West, and then in terms of the playoff standings, they are in, where the hell are they? There they are. They're in 13th place.
Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, rest and reset for next year.
Yeah, because clearly he's got something issue where He had the baseball arm injury, and then he had the football or golf arm injury, which were on opposite sides of the elbow, and doctors looked at him and went, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. Just sit him, regroup for next year. Like, there's no shame in this.
You got your ring.
You got your ring, Super Bowl hangover. Nobody was really expecting you to go back-to-back, per se. The only thing you might be in trouble with, and stress, I'm stressing the word might, Aaron Donald, whatever he wants to do, if he wants to come back. Then, because obviously he got his ring. So, this is a transition period, so to speak. But I would say if I'm the Rams, get everybody healthy.
Yeah.
Make a run next year.
Yeah.
And then call it a day. Talk Aaron Donald if he's thinking about retiring. See if he wants to come back one more season. Like, listen, everybody's back healthy. Let's give it one more shot. Win, lose, draw, and right off in the sunset. Because you're not going to do it this year. And looking at your schedule moving forward, it's not going to be pretty. On the flip side, Arizona, I was shocked to see Colt McCoy putting up this many points.
Hey, he was decent in college, and he's always been okay in the NFL.
Okay is the key word. He's been okay, but this was a situation I did not see happening.
Well, the thing, too, with the LA Rams is they are not the team from last year that was so dominant on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true. I mean, they're just a shell of their former selves. And it is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that comes down to some of the pieces around him that helped out. I mean, obviously, you've got James Conner, who's decent. He's hit or miss, but he's
very hit or miss.
He's decent. And then, I mean, your receiving core, we mentioned DeAndre Hopkins, but you also had Rondale Moore, 9 for 94, no touchdowns. Connor had 3 for 17 in receiving. Zach Ertz, 1 for 12, which is, he usually does better, though.
Yeah, but he's out now with a leg injury, I believe.
Yeah, and then you got AJ Green there as well, 2 for 10, which it's 2 first downs or 2 second and 5s. So you got enough decent pieces around him, and they also kept him upright. He only got sacked the 2 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those kind of wild situations there, but I think at the end of the day, Arizona is not going to be a team there. I think they're going to make a change at coach next year.
Maybe. I mean, they're currently in the NFC West. They're in 3rd place. And then in terms of the playoff standings, they are in 11th place.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
probably not.
They could sneak in if they get a little luck on their side. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I'm not wishing them bad. I don't hate Arizona.
Right. I mean, there is a 3-way tie. So between... so ahead of them is Atlanta at 4-6, who wins the tiebreak over them based on best win percentage in conference games. But then you've also got Green Bay with the same record in 9th place. So the only thing keeping them, from 8th place in the NFC playoff picture is 1 win and a loss from Washington.
Yeah, which how weird is that statement to say? How weird. But I think for Arizona, the fact they got this win, I think is a good sign. I don't know exactly what this means moving forward. I think, though, Kingsbury is going to be out next year.
Probably.
That's the only thing I would say is probably the most certain call I can make right now.
Probably.
I just think there's such a disconnect with him in the offense for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like, this team should be dropping at least 27 every game.
When Kyler's there, yes.
When Kyler's there.
Yes.
Like, you have way more talent on that field, and yet you guys can't put it together for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, that said... I think, though, they can relish this one and see how far they can make a run with it. I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to come up short. They'll be the team that winds up in 10th.
Could be.
Just for reasons.
Could be. Looking at the schedules for the Arizona Cardinals, they've got San Francisco coming up this coming Monday night. After that, they've got the LA Chargers a bye week in Week 13, and then they come back in Week 14 against the New England Patriots, again on Monday Night Football. And then for the LA Rams, they have got, where are they? There they are. The New Orleans Saints this upcoming Sunday on the road. They've got Kansas City on the road. And then they've got Seattle at home, and then the Las Vegas Raiders at home. That one on Thursday.
Yeah, so it'll be some interesting football for that NFC West, but I don't think either of these two teams are going to make any noise.
No.
I just really don't. That said, let's go to my locks and leaps. And I had a feeling... I don't know why, because I make a point, a little peek behind the curtain. If the LA Chargers are involved with a game, I stay away because I don't cheer for them to win or pick them to win or pick them to lose. They're so inconsistent, and I don't care who's on their field with them. I don't. But I took a gamble because something sparked me to say the 49ers were going to show up. It was prime time.
Mm-hmm.
Christian McCaffrey has put some new energy in that offense. I had a feeling, And I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, break it down.
San Francisco beat the LA Chargers by the final score of 22-16. Jimmy G, 19-28 for 240 yards passing, excuse me. No touchdowns or interceptions. Justin Herbert, 21-35 for 196 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Austin Eckler, your leading rusher for the Chargers, 6 for 24, no touchdowns. On the San Francisco side, Elijah Mitchell, 18 for 89, no touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey did have 14 for 38 and 1. And then for receiving San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk was your leading receiver, 6 for 84, no touchdowns. And then on the Los Angeles side, DeAndre Carter was your leading receiver, 4 for 64 and 1 touchdown.
I tell you this, the 49ers are for real.
They're looking good.
They're looking good. They're not winning games flashy. I don't want to say they took the mantle of the most boring team in football from Indianapolis, but I'm going to say they're winning very steady.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing super flashy about them, even though George Kittle, the fact that he's not really exploded lately and putting up a big money game.
Fucking tell me about it. Fantasy team here.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that is drawing my eye here, because Brandon Ayuk is blown up, and he's definitely making some plays. But you think about the 49ers staples.
Sure.
George Kittle,
Yeah.
1 for 21. Deebo Samuel, 2 for 24. Granted, 27 yards rushing, but still. Elijah Mitchell has now emerged, 18 carries, 89 yards. That's huge, especially if you have a 1-2 punch with him and Christian McCaffrey. Because, let's face it, McCaffrey's injury history is something that I think the Niners would have to worry about.
Cause for concern.
It is. It's not a slight against him. It's just fact. But if you can keep them on the field, and Jimmy Garoppolo is managing games better than anybody, that's a true sign to win. Now, like I say, you're not going to get the big moments on ESPN or other sports shows where you see all the crazy highlights.
Yeah.
I think the only one from this game, to be honest with you, was that crazy hit Justin Herbert took.
Yeah, that was oof.
Which, I mean, is very brutal. And, like I was kind of surprised there wasn't an ejection. Like, it just, like, I'm not saying it was a dirty play, but I just think, like, for where it was high.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So they got away with one a little bit there. Like I said, to my knowledge, nobody got ejected from it, but I was like, Herbert didn't look right after.
No.
And obviously putting up 0 points in the second half.
That's not going to help you win.
No, it's not going to help you win at all. And like I say, it's a situation for the Chargers that, well, congratulations, you're doing what you usually do.
Uh-huh.
You're inconsistent.
High expectations, the low results.
I have no faith in this team whatsoever. I don't care if they're favored by double digits. I have no faith in them to cover. I don't have any faith in them to win. I think they just show up, and then it's like whatever team is going to play for 4 quarters is what we get.
Yeah.
Because honestly, there's nothing you can say is a guarantee with a squad.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy G's playing good. It's kind of crazy, though, just because he's not doing anything flashy. I mean, his his season high in passing yards was against the Kansas City Chiefs a couple weeks ago, where he threw for 303 yards. But his season high for touchdowns is 2, and he's done that 1, 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah.
And he's got 11 touchdowns on the year, 4 interceptions. In this game, if you'd told me like the week prior that, hey, there's going to be a quarterback on Sunday that throws for 240 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions, what do you think happens? 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell you they probably lost.
Sure.
Just because you look at it like, okay, yeah, you threw for 240, but you didn't fucking throw any touchdowns. Like, how can you expect to win?
Yeah.
But the fact that he did that for no touchdowns, no interceptions speaks to just how good the rest of that team is on the running and especially on defense. And George Kittle, I don't know what, maybe it's the curse of me finally getting him in fantasy football, because this seemingly happens every time I get some guy I've wanted for years. I know it happened a couple years ago with Calvin Johnson, and then he had a shit year. It happened with Adrian Peterson, and then he had a couple good games, but he had a shit year. But I'm just looking at George Kittle's stats: 29 receptions, tied for 71st in the NFL, 340 yards, tied for 69th in the NFL, which nice.
Yes.
And then he only has 2 touchdowns on the year, which is tied for 48th in the NFL. Those are very subpar numbers for him.
It's very subpar, but it's something with the Niners team that you just got to kind of expect. Like, it's weird to say, because when you think of superstars, they put up big numbers. They have takeover games. When the Niners are getting away from this, it's a weird thing to watch. But they're playing so fundamentally sound on both sides of the ball, too. Like I said, their defense is nasty.
Oh, yeah.
But is there anybody other than Bosa that's a household name?
I'd have to look at it, but off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that you have to think about with this team. Like, they're winning very deceptively and very quietly.
Yeah.
And I think, though, this plays in their factors because nobody's really talking about them. But if they get in the playoffs, they're going to cause some problems.
Oh, yeah.
They really will. And everybody forgets, if Jimmy G did not get sacked in that NFC Championship game, it would have been a whole different story last year. That's how good this team is.
Yeah, that's true.
And nobody's talking about them. So, like I say, they could sneak in there. They could make a run late.
Good day.
They just need a lot of luck on their side. But I know you got their schedule ready to talk.
I do. So this upcoming Monday, they're playing the Arizona Cardinals on ESPN. Should note the game's in Mexico City. After that, they've got the New Orleans Saints, the Miami Dolphins, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for the LA Chargers, they have got the Kansas City Chiefs this upcoming Sunday on Sunday Night Football. After that, they've got the Arizona Cardinals, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Miami Dolphins.
Well, like I say, the Chargers are a coin flip each week.
Yeah, they are.
So there's nothing really super crazy there. The 49ers, though, if they can sneak out 3 of 4 there, I really like their chances of getting a high seed. Really do.
Let's see. Currently in the NFC West, they are in second place behind the Seattle Seahawks, who are 6-4. And then in the playoff standings, they are in 7th place.
Like I said, just a couple of things that luck happens, and
Sure.
they could definitely shoot up there. Like, they're that good. They could definitely make that happen. It's kind of crazy to think about when you really break it down.
Yeah.
It's not as crazy, though, as those New York Football Giants.
Yeah.
Which, Pad, what is going on here? The Giants are making a run
7-2
for the number 1 seed.
They are looking at the standings. Where the hell is it? They're like 1 game out of first place.
Yeah.
In the NFC West or NFC East.
Well, I mean, obviously, with what happened with Philly, it's caused a very big ripple effect.
Yeah.
But my God, those New York Football Giants are showing up. Maybe it's Coach Stuffy staying away from the studio. I don't know. Maybe it's some karmatic thing happening.
We got to drag his ass back in here.
I know we're gonna bring him back in here because, like, if Brian Dabble raises a trophy over Sean McDermott this year, I don't know what's gonna happen. I think the earth might explode. No, I'm just kidding about that, folks. But my God, those New York Football Giants. Let's talk about it. Big win on Sunday.
Yeah, they won by the final score of 24-16 over the Houston Texans. Danny Dimes, 13-17 for 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Davis Mills, 22-37 for 319 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Saquon Barkley, your leading rusher for the Giants, 35 for 152 and 1 touchdown.
Have a game.
Damian Pierce led for Houston, 17 for 94, no touchdowns. Jordan Akins was your leading receiver for Houston, 3 for 72, no touchdowns. Darius Slayton was your leading receiver for the Giants, 3 for 95 and 1 touchdown.
You know, it still boggles my mind that the Cinderella team of all teams this season is the New York Football Giants.
So far.
I mean, you gotta give the Devils their due. Like, I know I rip on Brian Dabble a lot. It is what it is, but he made this team into something, and they're playing well above their physical abilities, in my opinion. And a team against Houston, like, granted, they should have won because they are a better team.
And Houston fucking sucks.
Yeah, Houston's awful. Like, they're
1-7-1.
Yeah, there's nothing really to talk about them. They're gonna have fun to having the number 1 draft pick next season. Like, it is what it is. So I don't want to dwell too much, and obviously just keep piling on them because you can pile that garbage pile all the way to the ceiling. It's still gonna stink. It's still gonna be there, and it's not going away.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Giants, though, winning this, and Saquon Barkley finally having that game.
Looks like he's finally healthy.
Yeah, he's finally healthy.
Goddamn.
They figured out how to do this with a lackluster offensive line.
Yeah.
And he's looking great. Danny Dimes he's looking like Danny Dimes.
He's looking okay.
He's okay. Like
197-2. That's all right.
Yeah, and I know the comparison still, even how bad Josh Allen is playing. Like, listen, Danny Dimes is still not Josh Allen, so temper those expectations. But they're winning with a very lackluster offense core in that wide receiver division. There's really nothing that scares you about this team, but they're finding ways to win. And if you're a team like this, you play with house money. When you play with house money, you have nothing to lose and nothing to fear. It is something that is just mind-blowing to me that Dabble came in here and put this energy on this team. And it's like, listen, kudos to him. Like I say, I'm not his biggest fan, but nothing personal. I just don't like how he calls the games.
Sure.
but he's made this team into a real contender. He's made this team into something special. And especially in that NFC East, which what happened to Philly, and we're going to talk about that next. This has really opened up some eyes that they could sneak in there. And could you imagine if the Giants somehow pull off that number 1 seed?
Well, what's even more wild is, with the exception of the Washington Commanders, the entire NFC East is in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
With the exception of the Washington Commanders, because they're on the outside looking in right now, but they're like, in terms of like using the college basketball term, they're one of the first 4 out.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about, too, as well. Like, I know that Philly has to go to play the Giants again. I know that there's a lot more division games coming up. So that's going to be the true test to the Giants. But we said a couple weeks ago, and I think this remains true.
Yeah.
If they could win all those games until they get to Thanksgiving, they're going to be in prime position for the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They just need to sneak out some division games. Can they do it against Philly? Maybe. I still think Philly takes them, but I think you have to say maybe, because they're doing this with literally Saquon taking the team on his back.
Right.
If Saquon goes down by injury, and not wishing it by any means, but if he goes down with injury, this team's done.
Right. Well, and I'm looking at their schedule. They play Philly for the first time this year, coming up on December 11th. Currently scheduled for a 1 o'clock start time on Fox. I'm willing to bet money that's going to get flexed.
That could get flexed.
That's depending on how the teams are looking. If first place in the division's on the line that late in the season, that's going to get flexed into Sunday night.
Yeah, that should. I mean, that's one crazy story of the season. I think win, lose, or draw, Giants fans have a lot to be excited about. I think next season, though, will be the thing to watch with them.
Yeah.
Because I think Dabble and the GM are going to have time to really build something there. And I think that they'll get into that draft and they'll make some moves, and they're going to really upgrade this team. And I think if you're a free agent, you're going to be looking at this team and saying, maybe this is somewhere I want to go play. Because they're playing with really no fear. And they're doing this ugly. Games are not fun to watch. But if they get a playmaker here and there, especially in that wide receiver core, like if they got someone like a DeAndre Hopkins.
Sure.
If they got somebody like, even if Odell went back,
which would be wild.
It'd be wild, but listen, crazier things have happened in this world. You think about if they can get a number 1 receiver that hasn't been getting the attention, so to speak. And granted, I understand Hopkins has been suspended, but I'm just kind of putting this out there. If they can get a real threat in there to burn the sidelines, and then you still have Barkley with you, that's a solid 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
You can make some moves. You can definitely win in that game.
Yeah,
win in that division. So Giants fans, a lot to look forward to, so you definitely want to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
And then Houston, well, thanks for showing up.
Yeah. Looking at the schedules, the Giants have the Detroit Lions coming up this Sunday. After that, they've got the Dallas Cowboys, Washington Commanders, and then the Philadelphia Phillies. On the flip side, just to be fair, the Houston Texans this upcoming Sunday have the Washington Commanders, followed by the Miami Dolphins, Cleveland Browns, and then the Dallas Cowboys.
Interesting times for the Giants yet ahead, but I tell you what, if they can sneak those wins, they're going to sneak those wins. Pat, you ready to take a lap around the league?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
So on the Thursday game, you had the Carolina Panthers beat the Atlanta Falcons 25-15.
Well, we know who Atlanta is.
Yeah.
They took the L.
Yes, they did.
Carolina finding some way to win here.
Yeah.
Nothing really to say about here. Obviously, their season's toast, but Atlanta, that's a bad loss for them for being as solid as they played the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
That's a bad loss.
You had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Seattle Seahawks 21-16 over in Munich, Germany. Hell of a game, hell of a crowd.
Yeah, definitely an interesting game over there. I thought Seattle might sneak it out, but Tampa Bay winning.
Tom Brady 4-0 in international games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He is internationally undefeated.
Mr. Worldwide.
Yes.
Mr. whatever the area code of Tampa Bay is.
Yeah, he's definitely made sure he got that W. But I tell you what, Seattle looked good in that loss too.
Yeah.
But Tampa Bay, 5-5, that's still enough to make some noise in that.
Hey, it's
NFC
good enough
South.
for first place in that division.
Yeah, exactly. So God. I mean, what else can you really say about that division? That division's awful.
Yeah.
But Seattle still hangs on to first place. I mean, that's the headline I'm going to run with.
Yeah. You had the Detroit Lions beat the Chicago Bears 31-30 despite a Herculean effort from Justin Fields again. 167 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then 147 yards on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns.
Give Justin Fields some help, Chicago.
God damn.
Like, listen, I applaud him. I love watching him play. You know why? He's the only one on that team making some moves, and he's trying to win this by himself.
Hey, at least the guy in our fantasy league was smart enough and started him this week.
Yeah, exactly.
40 points.
Congratulations. But my God, like, if he actually had some help, like, if he had the Giants wide receiver core, they'd be looking amazing this year.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say about this. Detroit, though, this was a game for the fantasy football players.
Pretty much.
That was it. I mean, that's the only thing we can say. Detroit has found a way. Okay, they actually didn't blow a game here. They actually found a way to really go crazy in the fourth quarter, which kudos to them. Yeah. They have all the talent in the world. They just can't put it together. Unfortunately, I think there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking in their front office this season. Off-season, that is.
Yeah. Titans country. Let's ride. They beat the Denver Broncos 17-10.
Well, this is probably what should have happened, to be honest with you. Tannehill, though, he came back, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry doing Derrick Henry things, even though 53 yards, though.
Yeah, only 53.
Not super crazy, but when Tannehill is out dueling Russell Wilson, we now have a problem.
I'll say, Houston, we have a problem.
We now have a problem. Like,
panic button is pressed.
Oh, my God. Like, no matter how many times I can even say, let's ride, will not make this up. Like, I'm sorry, when you were getting outdueled, and granted, I understand Wilson threw for 30 more yards, you still took the L.
Well, and especially I read a story or read a thing online about how supposedly, allegedly, the offensive coordinator in Denver told Wilson when he was coming over to Denver, oh, you won't get hit as much over here. Motherfucker got sacked 6 times.
How can you make that guarantee? Like, you can't. Denver's offensive line, you did no upgrading in that offseason.
You're not going to get hit as much over here. Yeah, dude's been sacked 29 times this year.
Forget about it. Jeez.
I read that and I went, are you serious?
Yeah, and if that was the deciding factor, Russell chose wrong, in my opinion. Yeah. Big time.
You had the Miami Dolphins beat the Cleveland Browns by the final score of 39-17.
See, this is my other leap. I took the Browns.
Yeah.
I had some faith. I was like, you know what? They got Nick Chubb running great. But I heard this comment, and Pat, I want your honest opinion.
Sure.
Is Tua now in the MVP race?
Let me pull up his stats. 2,265 yards passing, good for 11th in the NFL. 18 touchdowns, tied for 3rd in the NFL. 3 interceptions, which is tied for 4th in the NFL, and he's got a QBR of 82.6, which is good for 1st in the NFL. I don't know if he wins it, but I would say just based off...
Is he in the conversation?
Yeah, I'd say he's in the conversation.
I gotta say this. I think he's in that conversation too.
I'm not saying he's gonna win.
I don't think he wins, but I will say this: as much as I don't like Miami, I'm happy to see him after the treatment he got with his concussions in the previous weeks.
Yeah,
I'm happy to see him bounce back. I'm happy to see him playing at a high level. I'm genuinely happy for him.
Yeah,
I'm not happy Miami's winning, but I'm happy for him.
Right.
So, I think when I was hearing those MVP chants, I was like, you know what? I can't dispute that conversation.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the last 4 games he's played against Cleveland, Chicago, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. We mentioned for this game he had 285 and 3, no interceptions. Against Chicago it was 302 and 3, no interceptions. Detroit it was 382 and 3, no interceptions, and then Pittsburgh was 261 and 1, no interceptions.
The only thing though is you look at the record of those 4 teams, and they're not.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's the Denver stat line from a couple of years ago. You remember when they started out 3-0, and it's kind of like that.
Their opponents were combined 0-9.
Yeah. So I will say this though: I think Tua's looked great. I think Miami has been very smart with him. I just want to see when they start playing some real competition again.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be a real telling sign. But I think you definitely have to put him in that conversation. I really do. Cleveland, though, on the other hand, I mean, I don't even know where you go with this season, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, I know Deshaun Watson is lurking
couple of weeks,
and then he'll be back, and then you're going to see if you really made a smart investment or not. Mm-hmm. Just going to put it out there.
Their upcoming game this Sunday is going to be interesting. I'll get to that in a minute, though. You had the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the New Orleans Saints 20-10.
Like, I don't even know where you go with this one.
Both teams suck.
Yeah. Like, Pittsburgh, I mean, granted, at home, different story, but there is really nothing great to talk about this.
Nope.
Nothing great. So I'm just going to say we're going to skip it and go to the next one.
You had the Indianapolis Colts in Jeff's head coach Jeff Saturday's coaching debut beat the Las Vegas Raiders 25-20.
Fire Josh McDaniels.
Send him back to New England.
He's got to go. I'm sorry.
He has the confidence of the owner. Yeah, sure. How's that going to work out?
It's not going to work out pretty. Derek Carr was crying at the end of this.
Yeah.
Like I said, if Carr's crying at the end, at the press conference, like, this is not a good sign for the Raiders. This team should be playing at so much of a higher level than they are. Mm-hmm. And it starts with the head coach. It starts with Carr, and it's trickling down. And this team is just not producing. I don't know where you go from here, but I think McDaniels needs to go.
Oh, he's gone.
He's got to be gone. Carr's gone.
Yeah.
Go all in on Lamar Jackson.
Davis is going to fire him and buy him a first-class ticket back to fucking New England.
Yeah. Like, I would get him the hell out of there as quick as I could.
Yeah.
The season's a wash. You're 2-7.
Yeah, you're 2-7. You are in last place in the AFC West when all but I think Rich, all of us except Rich, had winning the AFC West.
Yeah.
And then in the playoffs, or the playoff standings, they're second to last in the AFC ahead of only Houston.
Yeah, they're, like I said, the season's done. And it's a shame, too, because Devontae Adams has been playing like an MVP when he gets the ball.
Yeah.
But the fact that you got beat by the Colts with Jeff Saturday as your head coach, a man who has had zero pro coaching experience other than being Peyton Manning's center.
Well, there was like some private Christian school he coached at, but that was like elementary school or middle school.
Exactly. Level. Like I say, not a pro coach.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan,
37 years old, coming off the bench.
Yeah. And yet you pull this off.
Yeah.
Like, that is all you need to say about this. Even when the Colts are trying, allegedly, if I'm doing the eye test by making this move for Saturday to just lose.
Well, I mean, you had Jonathan Taylor go for 147-1, which to be expected. But leading receiver for Indianapolis, Paris Campbell.
Who?
7 for 76 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
In case you're curious, he was a second-round pick in 2019 out of Ohio State.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like, for me doing the eye test, that's why I say allegedly. Like, this looks like they're just trying to throw the season away.
Yep.
And this is almost like the movie Major League. Like, they're going to find a way to win. They're going to make a run. Like, I will say this right now. Pad, where do the Colts rank in the playoffs?
Let me see. For the AFC, they're in 10th place.
Okay, so they just got to get to what, 8th?
8th or 7th, yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
If they get there, Jeff Saturday's coach of the year. I don't care if he's only coached 5 games and he gets there.
So obviously the tie's going to work against them. But the only teams they have ahead of them are the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 5-4, and then also the LA Chargers, who are 5-4, and the New England Patriots, who are also 5-4.
Other than the Patriots, I think they could definitely leapfrog the other two right now.
Could be.
I really do.
The only thing working against them is that tie.
Yeah. So if Saturday gets him in, he's coach of the year. I am dead serious about this. And like I said, they're going to go Major League about this. Because I'm sorry, the whole move about getting Saturday makes no sense. I don't care if you're trying to appease your fan base. This just doesn't work. In my opinion, that's why I say the allegedly we're trying to tank. Because that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Same thing with you, Pat?
Oh, yeah.
So like I say, that's the allegedly thing here. Because if you're seeing it, I'm saying they should not have been in this game. This should have been Raiders all day.
Right.
And yet here we are.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule the rest of the year. They've got Philly this upcoming Sunday, followed by Pittsburgh, Dallas, a bye week in Week 14. Then they've got Minnesota, the Chargers, Giants, and Texans to close out the year.
Jeez. I mean, what do you do?
And then for some of the other games we had Sunday, you had the Green Bay Packers beat the Dallas Cowboys 31-28 in overtime. Mike McCarthy trying to get fired on national television.
Bad loss by Dallas. Bad loss.
When you even have the broadcasters on Fox, the game of the week, questioning why Dallas didn't kick the field goal in overtime when it was well within range of the kicker, blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, like you want to talk allegedly? I'm just saying.
Listen, Dak is a good quarterback. To me, he has never been a surefire guarantee on 4th down.
Yeah,
but when you've got basically a chip shot for your kicker, and hey, it's fucking points. It's potentially the win. even if the Packers go down the field and kick a field goal, hey, you're still in it, still a chance.
Yeah.
Why you skipped on that, I'll never know.
Yeah, like I say, because I was gonna say that's allegedly a boneheaded move. No, that's just
it is.
No, that makes no sense. None. So I don't know where the play calling came from, but whoever did should not be in that position because that was stupid. I'm sorry, my opinion, absolutely atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
And Green Bay lives to fight another day, 4-6.
Yeah.
Still, I don't think they're gonna make any moves, but they definitely. This hurt Dallas tremendously.
Oh yeah.
To put it just mildly. So awful loss for Dallas. Yep. Awful.
And then on Monday Night Football, you had the Washington Commanders beat the Philadelphia Eagles 32-21.
Bum.
Mm-hmm.
Bad loss for Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, just things did not pan out for Philly. I mean, they were still down.
Yeah.
What? 20-14,
something like that,
in the second half, or going into halftime. So they were still there, but fans
are booing them off the field.
Yeah, well, you know what? Rightfully so,
because it's Philly.
It's Philly, so I understand that. I'm not even questioning that.
Sure,
but I just think for this team, this awful loss. I know it's division though, so I couldn't be super mad about this. But I'm watching, going like I thought a lot of calls went Washington's way, in my opinion. Like it was just a lot of them that really kind of threw things off. Jalen Hurts had a bad game, but 175 and 2 touchdowns is not exactly the worst. But the thing about the Commanders is they hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, Taylor Heinicke definitely played the game of his life, I think, in my opinion. Like I think that he really balled out. And Philly, I think, just was not ready for him. I mean, when you start the season off as hot as they did, sometimes you start feeling your own hype.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is one of the situations that they took Washington too lightly. And even if it's division, Washington never took their eyes off them. And granted, the last touchdown to end the game, I mean, that was a garbage touchdown, so we don't really need to say that.
Yeah.
But Philly definitely was not ready for him.
Yeah.
And definitely this is just such a bad loss. I laughed, though, I saw some people were saying about bringing Carson Wentz back.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I immediately after this, I saw some of that online. Like, listen, folks, no, Hurts will be fine. Nobody, you weren't going to run the table. I don't think this is probably the best case scenario for you. Is you lost now before you got in the playoffs?
Get it out of the way.
I mean, do I think they won't lose another game before the playoffs? I think there's a chance. I think the Giants will split with them.
Yeah, I could
see it. I never thought I'd say that at the beginning of the year. I really didn't.
Yeah. There's one more game, though, we got to talk about.
I'm not ducking this. Bring it on.
We got to talk about the Buffalo Bills, who lost to the Minnesota Vikings 33-30.
Best game of the week?
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah.
But I got a lot to say, so I'll let you get the stats done, and I'm going off.
So like we mentioned, the Minnesota Vikings beat the Buffalo Bills by a final score of 33-30. Kirk Cousins, 30 of 50 for 357 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Josh Allen, 29 of 43 for 330 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Dalvin Cook, your leading rusher for Minnesota, he had 14 for 119, 1 touchdown. Josh Allen, your leading rusher for Buffalo, 6 for 84, no touchdowns. On the receiving side, Justin Jefferson, have a fucking game, why don't you? 10 for 193, 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs, also have a fucking game, why don't you? 12 for 128, no touchdowns.
Okay. So this is the easiest way to describe this. Pad, what was the score at halftime?
Let's see. It was 24-10 in favor of Buffalo.
You've watched how many Bills games with me?
Enough.
What is the one thing I always say?
They don't make second half adjustments.
Correct. They didn't. They took the foot off the gas and tried coasting. This is something that they have done in the past. Why we're going back to this is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me. I will say Justin Jefferson had a game.
Mm-hmm.
The one-handed catch he made.
Catch of the year.
Might have been the greatest catch of all time. Maybe. Like, it was phenomenal. It was a game changer. He was burning them the entire first series of the game, too. The Bills' defense, I don't know what it is, but when they play great and they stay in that gear.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't start strong, they struggle the entire game. And I don't know if it's a mental lapse. I don't know if it's just they're buying into their own press hype, because let's face it, I'm not saying this as a fan. I'm saying this as an honest person.
Sure.
how much this offseason were they crowned Super Bowl champs already?
Damn near everybody.
Everybody did. And rightfully so, because the talent was on paper. However, though, Micah Hyde is out.
Oh, yeah.
Poirier has not been playing. He's coming back from injury. Tre'Davious White, still not there. There's factors that they shouldn't be calling the shot like they have been calling. Mm-hmm. And obviously, when you start out hot, you start out strong, everybody has been like, you know what? We can just turn this on. It doesn't work that way. And this was a game that they needed because they came off that bad Jets loss.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened?
Oh, yeah.
Minnesota took the page out of the playbook.
Oh, yeah.
So Dalvin Cook, yeah, he was running 119 and a touchdown. And he was definitely doing a lot of things that I saw with the Jets. Not so much end arounds, but they were making holes for him running right up the middle.
Right.
And you had Cousins on the ropes, too. Like, Cousins throwing 357 in this game.
Wild.
Is atrocious for a defense that is that good as Buffalo's is. And like I said, Micah Hyde is out the year. I get that. But somebody has got to make us play on that secondary. And I'm sorry, that team did not do it.
No.
And they definitely looked absolutely lost out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry. The fact that they were there and not shutting this team down, they should have had this locked up.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense why they're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they should have just been completely, okay, we're going to lock this up. We're going to have this game set in stone. Like, I'm sorry, if you're up 24-10,
right,
it should be done. You gave up a back-breaking touchdown late to put this within 10. And then we get to the fourth quarter, which, like I say, Josh Allen, I had a talk with a couple Bills fans today about this too.
Sure.
One of which you know.
Yeah.
And he actually brought up a point.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's set up the scenario too. Bills make this tremendous goal line stance in the fourth quarter.
Watch this on my phone. Yeah, they have less than a minute to go. Minnesota's like in the 10-yard, within the 5-yard line or something. They make a goal line stand, fourth and whatever. Bills defense going fucking nuts. The stadium up there in Buffalo going fucking nuts.
Right.
Yeah, I saw it, and I'm like, all right, good to go. And I flipped the channel.
Right.
And then my buddy of mine starts texting me going, Buffalo's dead to me. I went, wait, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, because Josh fumbles. And I know it's a bad snap, but still at that point, you still got to catch that ball. You got to do something with it.
Yeah.
Josh Allen has been competing with Josh Allen the past couple weeks. And what I mean by this, and like I say, we had a listener talk to me about this, and he just said basically, do you know that since the coaching staff was kind of talking about how much he was running, he's trying to stay in that pocket now. He's not trying to move. He's not trying to play his game. He's overthinking everything. You see the passes that he was doing against the Jets and he was doing against the Vikings, where the interceptions he had, 2 costly ones.
Yeah.
One ended everything in overtime, too.
Yeah.
The choices he makes with the ball, he's pressing himself too much because he's in his own head.
Yeah, I mean, the interceptions are certainly hurting the team. In the last 3 games, he's thrown 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
Two a week. And I was talking to a Bills fan on Monday, and the thing he brought up to me, and I was like, yeah, maybe, we'll see what you say, is he and some other Buffalo Bills fans feel like Josh Allen is going back to 2019 Josh Allen, where he was trying to play superhero and do it all himself.
Yes. No, he is, because let's face it, when he came out of that Jets game and he had the arm injury, what was the one thing I was saying? Sit him. Why are we risking the franchise with him? And I don't care that he looked good in this game. I don't. But why did you burn him? Because you know what? If they could have actually won without him, he's going into this week against Cleveland. He could have been like in a better place. Because now here's the problem you have. They blew that game. Minnesota wins. Congratulations. Minnesota, listen, they're winning ugly.
Kudos to you.
Kudos. I'm taking nothing away from Minnesota. They were the better team on Sunday. But now here's the problem that we got with the Bills. The Bills are going to go into this game against Cleveland, and they're going to, this is now a do-or-die game because now they're in third place. They lost the second seed, possibly going for the first seed. It went to Miami. The Jets are in second now because of head-to-head.
Yeah.
The Bills are in third,
Yep.
and if they take the L here,
yeah,
they're going to keep sliding.
Just like because as we currently record, the entire AFC East is in the playoffs.
Yes.
Which is fucking wild.
It's insane. Nobody's talking about it, but it's an actual fact.
Like we mentioned earlier, with if the Washington Commanders make it into the playoffs, and so did the other 3 teams in the NFC East, the entire East Coast of the NFL is going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, which is an insane stat.
Which is bonkers.
This is facts.
If you don't believe us, go look at the fucking standings.
Right. But for the Bills, if I have to go to Kansas City or I have to go to Miami in the playoffs, that is not where I want to go.
Yeah.
Now, Kansas City, you might have to go there.
Sure.
That's something might have. Okay, like I've accepted that.
Sure.
But if you have to go to Miami,
Hey.
look what happened the last time you went down there and you guys were not conditioned and ready to go.
Crowd's going to be loud.
No, because the crowd will be they'll leave if the Bills are up 27-10. And like, let's face it, if it's by that at halftime, half that stadium will be empty.
Yeah.
Yes, Miami, I'm calling you fans out. I'm sorry. There's only a few Dolphins fans I know that will stay there to the end. One we might be talking with later on a different podcast, but that'll be a different story for another time. But I'm saying for the Bills, now you're in a situation that this is must win. Josh has to play smart. Josh has to tune out the media because now everybody is saying, well, he's not a real MVP candidate anymore. Listen, you guys anointed him, and now you're taking him down because they had 2 bad games.
Yeah.
This is where he has to get with the offensive coordinator. He has to get with Dorsey. He has to get with his wide receiver core and be like, okay, we need to fix this. What are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
And really look at that tape and really say what we're going to do. Because Cleveland will scrap with them. And I'm saying right now, if they had problems with Dalvin Cook, what do you think Nick Chubb's going to do?
Well, and that game on Sunday is going to be real fucking interesting because it's at 1 o'clock up in Orchard Park, New York. Current weather, according to AccuWeather, is calling for snow and 42 degrees. The forecasted snowfall total for going into the game on Sunday, 2 feet.
Oh, then Bills would be fine.
They'll be there. That's old school Buffalo weather, but they're calling for fucking 2 feet of snow up in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be the real test right there.
Boy, howdy.
Yeah, so it'll be a challenge for Cleveland, but I mean for the Bills though, Josh has to just be smart. He has to trust his instincts. He has to stop forcing passes. And I understand they're trying to talk him into stop running. Listen, I am the first one to tell him to stop running as much. I just don't want to see him run shoulder first into people or hurdling where somebody's going to take him out. I want to see him play smarter. And he's got to do that if they're going to win. But if his arm is not 100%, honestly, if it's 2 feet of snow, I'd place Keenum in there. And I'd sit him for a week and just let him get right.
Sure.
Because after that, he's got Detroit for Thanksgiving. And then we get into a very, very ugly stretch.
Right.
So for the Bills, now you're in a corner you have to fight out of. Sunday is a must-win. You can't lose. If you go down 6-4, I'm not saying you're not going to get into the playoffs, but you're going to have such a tough road, and I think mentally that's going to wear on you. The fact that Miami has leapfrogged you, they're playing at a high level. Granted, I have December 18th circled on that calendar, and I hope for 2 feet of snow in Orchard Park. I'm ready for that. Oh, trust me. I might be a little obnoxious on Twitter that day. I'm just going to put everybody out there with that. But they still have to play the Jets again. New England is still
got 2 against New England.
Yeah, so this is now not the time to have a collapse. You have to play better. This was a game that you could have won, you should have won, and you didn't. And that defense, I swear to you, I know we have people that listen to us up in Buffalo. Make second half adjustments. Don't take the foot off the gas. Do what you're doing and apply pressure. Because guess what? You let Kirk Cousins dice and slice like he was Tom Brady in his prime. Enough said. Fix it.
Or don't. Meanwhile, the Patriots had the greatest game in NFL history on Sunday. They didn't play.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I say. They had perfect rushing, perfect passing, perfect defense, perfect kicking.
Pat was a happy camper.
Can't have a negative if you didn't play.
I was not. But I also blame it on one person because he decided to jinx everything.
Yeah, he did.
They're
a mutual friend of ours. After Buffalo made that goal line stand on 4th down, goes running. Buffalo won. Ken looks at him. How much time is left? 44 seconds.
Yep, and then, of course, I see Josh Allen fumble the ball.
Yep.
That was my Sunday, folks.
Yep.
We can talk about that another time because we have to get to more topics of the sports show, so definitely we are asking you to hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. Tell us your thoughts about this past week of the NFL. What was your team doing? Did they win? Did they lose? Are we talking playoffs or are we talking draft picks? Let's have that conversation, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey all, I'm Frank. Join me and my friends as we talk about all things geek. Here at Geek Freaks Podcast, we go over the weekly news of everything in geekdom, from movies to TV, video games, and comic books. We also have a growing YouTube community. Join us as we go over everything in your geek life and share in the love of geekdom.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and man, oh man, oh man, I love it when the UFC has a fight card that delivers.
Uh-huh.
You know, sometimes when you spend that money and you're kind of going, all right, what did I really invest in?
Yeah.
And I know we started doing the $80 trick when we saw this fight on paper. Was this worth the $80?
Yeah.
I would say this.
Yeah.
UFC 281 lived up to the hype.
Mm-hmm.
I know we had everybody from 607 Podcast down here. The dog came through.
Yeah, he did.
You and Liz Bailey came through. Rich from 3FN was here. And we got our money's worth because a memorable night of fights happened. So let us recap the main card. And Pat, lead us away.
Yeah, so this took place this past Saturday from the Madison Square Garden Arena in New York City, New York, with an announced attendance of 20,845, and then a total gate of $11.5 million.
Jeez.
God damn. On the opening contest on the main card in the lightweight division, you had Dan Hooker defeat Claudio Puelles via TKO, a body kick at 4 minutes and 6 seconds of the second round. Excuse me.
Solid fight.
Yeah.
Dan Hooker is one of those fighters that you never know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah,
at
this
this
is true.
stage. Like he's somebody that's on. I always hate saying the back end. Like I legitimately do. I don't get any enjoyment about kind of ripping about it. But let's face it. I think his days of making a run for the title are gone. And I think, though, this was a solid win for him against Puelles. I think that now you kind of have to say, well, who's next for him? I don't know. And for Puelles, I think this will be a tough loss for him, but I know he'll bounce back. Just where you go with both guys from here is up in the air.
Let's see if the rankings have updated yet. Yeah, they did. So Dan Hooker is now the 11th ranked fighter in the lightweight division. Puelles was not even ranked, or if he was, he's dropped out of the top 15.
Yeah, so nothing really too earth-shaking there. I mean, solid fight for Dan,
Yeah.
so definitely have to see where he goes from here.
Next up was in the bantamweight division, where you had Chris Gutierrez defeat Frankie Edgar via a knee knockout at 2 minutes and 1 second of the first round.
Man, this was tough.
Uh-huh.
This was tough. Frankie, the legend of the sport.
Hey, Frankie, baby.
Yeah, as soon as I heard the Biggie go on, I was like, oh, man, let's do it one last time. But you got to give it to Gutierrez.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I will agree with, I believe it was Ariel Helwani was saying there should have been a fighter that was closer in age
Yeah.
to Frankie because Frankie
Yeah.
was on the other side of 40.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Frankie would not have accepted that.
No,
I think he
no.
would. I think he would just been like, listen, I'll fight whoever you throw at me. I'm not going to care. I'm just going to go in there and definitely try making some noise. And that's what he did. And he was looking solid until he took that knee. But you got to give it to Gutierrez.
Oh, yeah.
Gutierrez did what he had to do. Frankie's chin is not the same thing as it was, but for being the former lightweight champion and just a guy that, is one of the few people that's like, I'll fight anybody, I'll take him on, I don't care. And he always left it in the cage. Like there was never a time that you felt like Frankie never left it in the cage.
Yeah.
Solid send off to him on his last UFC fight. And for Gutierrez, I know I'm hearing a lot of talk that, obviously that's a solid win for him in the bantamweight division. I just don't know. Like say, I heard rumors about Pedro Munoz. I don't know if that's going to be the fight they make.
That'd be a jump because looking at the bantamweight division rankings on UFC.com/rankings, he is cracked the top 15. He is in the 13th position. Ahead of him are dude with the last name you might recognize, Umar Nurmagomedov.
Oh,
There's a fucking another one of these guys. God damn, they're like friggin' flowers. They pop up everywhere. And then you got Ricky Simon in the 11th position, and then you've got the aforementioned Pedro Munoz in the number 10 division, or number 10 spot.
see, that would make sense because this is the one thing about beating Frankie is it's a profile fight.
Oh, it's a absolute, despite the fact that Frankie's, like you said, on the other side of 40, it's a feather in your cap.
Yeah, so like I say, I've heard a couple of places talk about that. I know they were talking about that on ESPN too a little bit in one of the columns. Munoz makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't dispute that too much, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like, and Munoz is kind of, he's on that outside tier.
Yeah.
And especially Gutierrez. I mean, this is high profile. It's a big win. Make it happen, and let's go from there.
The only thing I hope with this fight is, and I don't know if he got it, was I know they showed the stat on the broadcast before the fight, but Frankie Edgar was like a sneeze away from 8 hours
Yeah.
ring time or octagon time in the octagon, which is fucking wild. The fact that, like, because you think it's like 3 5-minute rounds, 5 5-minute rounds, so it's not like you're racking. It's not like Royal Rumble time in WWE where you're racking up like an hour easy, you know, in one match. Fucking wild that a guy's reached a whole. I think he might have. I don't know if he did officially, but like the fact that he was ready to crack 8 hours in the octagon is wild.
Well, you got to remember this with Frankie. If you've never seen him fight, he is somebody that he doesn't get like quick knockouts.
Sure.
And he will drag opponents into deep waters. And the one thing you have to remember, too, is when he got the belt, he had just this insane trilogy with Gray Maynard that took time. And then every other fight he win, he always scrapped in there. He'd lose the first round, always. Like, you'd almost bang on it. And he'd somehow scrap and find a way to win. And you look at the opponents he's faced throughout the years, it was always the same setup. Like, he never really had, like, a crazy knockout, crazy finish. But he was just somebody that would grind opponents. And, he, like I say, there's no shame in that to take him to deep water. It's just a matter of, are you going to be an entertaining fighter? And Frankie always was. So, I mean, that's the one thing you got to take away with that. And I also say Brett Okamoto was the one who was saying about Munoz in the fight. His article about that. I have to agree with it. Like I say, I'm not disputing that one. That was not on my radar, but I'm like, the more I'm reading about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I could see that. And I saw a couple other places where kind of mentioned something about him there too. But then we get into the
Fight of the night.
The fight of the night. Like, how else do you describe this?
Well, both fighters for this fight did receive $50,000 bonuses because this did earn Fight of the Night honors.
Give them $100K each.
Yeah, easily. This was in the lightweight division where you had Dustin Poirier defeat Michael Chandler via rear naked choke submission at 2 minutes of the third round.
Fight forever.
Yeah.
This was everything I was hoping for. It was violence. It was insanity. It was the greatest first round I've seen since Diego Sanchez, Clay Guida.
Yeah.
By far and away.
Yeah.
This was just literally those two guys went in there and said, we're going to leave this in the cage.
Literal rock'em sock'em robots in the first round.
Yeah. Chandler even said coming out of the second cage, he's like, I'm willing to die right now for this. It's like,
yeah.
And that's how Chandler fights. I like, listen, he's insane. He's a wild man, but I applaud what he did. And this fight literally was going to be Chandler's, except when he went for a slam in the third, Poirier slipped out and just got him on his back. And then it's like a minute from there, it's like Poirier, everybody forgets because he likes to stand and bang a lot.
Yeah.
His jiu-jitsu is insane, too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the judges' scorecards on UFC.com, and I realize the judges had it scored, 1 round apiece heading into the third round. But I'm sorry, Poirier was getting his ass handed to him.
Oh, he was getting killed.
He was getting murdered those first 2 rounds. And for Dustin to pull a submission out of his ass, and hey, I realize he's good at submissions, whatever else, but still, he pulled this shit out of his ass and got Chandler with the win. Mind blown.
Oh, yeah, I mean, but that's just how good he is. Like, Poirier, he's now in a high-profile position because of the fights with Conor.
Right.
But if you've watched him over the years, man, he's just solid. Like, everything he does is just solid. And now he's on the later half of his career, because, I mean, I'm sorry, he's got a lot of tread on the tires. Mm-hmm. He's now finally getting that due. So now the question becomes, okay, he just beat Chandler. He had a title shot, if memory serves me right, because I know it's been a while since we've seen him, but if you call up his record, Pat.
For Chandler, yeah, I'll look it up.
Or no, for Poirier.
Poirier, yeah, I'll look it up.
Because now the question becomes, where does Poirier go from here? Because, I mean, he faced Khabib.
Well, I mean, I took a sneak peek at the rankings already because this was in the lightweight division. In the lightweight division rankings, neither fighter moved. Poirier is still the number 2 ranked fighter. Chandler is still the number 5 ranked fighter. In terms of, if I clicked on that, there we go. His last title fight was against Charles Oliveira back in December of last year. That was for the UFC lightweight championship.
And he's fought Khabib too, correct?
But yes, he did. That was also for the lightweight championship, where he, of course, lost, but that was in September of 2019.
Yeah, I often forget about the Oliveira fight. But this is a situation, so now looking at his fights, who do you book him against now? I mean, this is a legit question. Because I wouldn't have a problem if you gave him the winner of Machev and Volkanovski. But at the same time, I know it's going to sound weird, but like, has he earned that spot?
Yeah.
I mean, because he's already had 2 title shots.
Right.
So now, like, where do you go from here?
I mean, you could do that. I mean, you could also give him Gaethje. I mean, he's only fought Gaethje once before. You know, he knocked him out in the 4th round, of the fight. That was back in April of 2018, though. I mean, so you could do that because Gaethje is currently the number 3 ranked fighter. So, I mean, if you did want to go the route of, Machev and then Volkanovski, you could go that route.
I mean, you almost kind of have to think he's going to have to, but it's like, like this is just such a weird position for him because he's another fighter that if you put him in that title shot, yeah, it could make sense. But then if he loses, like, where do you go from here?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this stage, he's almost like approaching that Masvidal level.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't need a title fight to be in a marquee fight. Like, you know what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I don't think he does.
No, I mean, that's one situation, like, I think that he could call his shot and see where he wants to go.
Sure.
And I know, like, if he could decide to go up to 170, I mean, there are some fights to be had there. I just don't know, like, how he's going to fare against Machev. Like, because I kind of judge it, like, when you faced Khabib, it was pretty one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't think Poirier was that great against him.
No.
So if you fight against Machev, are you going to be able to handle that kind of wrestling style? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this stage, I haven't seen it because, I mean, you got subbed by Khabib. You got subbed by Oliveira.
Yeah.
That's a tough call to do, man. Like, that is. So
Yeah.
Gaethje would make sense to me. I'd love to see that again.
Yeah, and like I said, it's been a while since they fought, so.
Yeah, like I say, that could definitely be something wild there. So if I could see that again, I'm down for it. If not, you got to think maybe 170 for him and then kind of see what's there. And then on the flip side, this fight doesn't hurt Chandler one bit. I don't care.
No, this is not a bad loss.
No, this is not a bad loss at all. But now I think there's only one fight you make with him, and I think this would be box office. I think this would be so box office. You give him Conor.
Ooh.
You give him Conor, and he wants to fight him at 170.
Ooh.
That's
okay.
This makes so much sense. It's not even funny because Chandler. I know he's the 5th ranked fighter in the lightweight division. But I just don't know if he's going to get a shot.
Rankings matter.
Well, it's like he just needs to put something together. But yeah, like I get it. But if you put him against Conor is not going to go near a title.
Oh hell no, no.
And the thing is,
he's too far removed.
He's so far out of there. It's not even funny.
Well, first it'd be so far in the future because he's currently, as we record, still not in USADA testing.
Right.
And that's for a deliberate reason. If you see the photos.
Mm-hmm. But now the question becomes, if you put him there, Chandler can go at 170. He doesn't have to fight for a belt. Conor is not going to be anywhere close because the only fight you could make against him against Dustin Poirier, and Poirier would rip him apart again. You can stand and trust me, Chandler will bang with him. Chandler will stand there in the pocket with him and swing all day. And that will be box office because Chandler will cut a promo on him too.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, those interview segments will be the thing of memory for Conor, like why everybody still cared about him. I think you need to make this fight. I think anything else, unless like Chandler was like, I'll go up to 170 and fight Masvidal or do something. Well, I mean, granted, Masvidal's got a little situation going on too.
Yeah.
So he would be out of the equation. But how about him against Chimaev if they can't make the fight with him and Colby happen? I'm just throwing some ideas out there. Like, I forget Masvidal's got a little situation, if memory serves me right, before he can start fighting again. So,
yeah.
Let's kind of wait and see about that. Next up
was the co-main event of the evening in the women's strawweight division, where you had Zhang Weili defeat Carla Esparza to become your new women's strawweight champion with a rear naked choke submission at 1 minute and 5 seconds into the second round.
To quote Nate Diaz, I'm not surprised.
Nope.
I was not surprised at this one one bit. Listen, Carla is a good fighter, but Zhang is on a whole different level. Whole different level, and this was arguably the most one-sided fight of the night.
Yeah, it was.
Without question. And Zhang did what I thought she was going to do, and she just smothered Carla and just never gave her a chance.
Yeah.
And listen, Zhang is a very big strawweight. Carla is... I don't think she cuts that much weight to get to 115.
Maybe.
So I'm just going to kind of put it out there. But Zhang definitely looked like she wanted the belt back and was hungry for it. And I think Carla was maybe not so ready for it, but like
it would appear not. I mean, 1 minute 5 seconds into the second round of a 5-round fight.
Yeah, it was going to be a tough day. Now the question is, who's next for Zhang? And I think you got to do the fight against Rose.
Well, I would say looking at the women's strawweight division rankings, Carla Esparza is your number 1 ranked fighter. Rose Namajunas is your number 2 ranked fighter. Amanda Lemos is your number 3 ranked fighter. Jessica Andrade is 4, and then Marina Rodriguez is your number 5 ranked fighter. Should note also that Zhang Weili and Thug Rose have fought twice. Both fights going to Thug Rose. The first fight was in April of 2021, where Rose knocked her out, and then the second one was in November of that same year, with a split decision going to Thug Rose.
Yeah, so I think that's the only one that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I mean, unless there's some way, and to my knowledge, I don't think it's ever been thrown out there, but would Zhang go up to fight Shevchenko?
I mean, maybe. I don't know her personally, so I can't say one way or the other. Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that's something you're going to kind of have to wait and see about. But I think that's the easiest fight to make.
Probably.
I think that's the easiest fight to make. So Zhang would definitely be... That would be box office, too. I mean, the fight against her... It depends. If Rose comes out like Thug Rose and not whatever we had against her against Esparza,
right,
I think it'll be a great fight. I think if we have Rose come out and whatever the case was, not so much. I think it's going to be a long day, to be honest. But I think that's the only fight you can make in my head. Like, and I think you can say otherwise. And then we talk about upsets a lot.
Oh, boy.
Man, there's a lot to digest from this one. Pat, break it down.
This was the main event of the evening for the middleweight championship, and you had Alex Pereira defeat Israel Adesanya to become your new middleweight champion with a TKO at 2 minutes and 1 second in the 5th round.
Wow.
Also should note, looking at the scorecards, the judges had this. Let me just blow this up a little bit because it's a little hard for me to see at the moment. There we go. All 3 judges had the fight 39-37 in favor of Israel Adesanya heading into the 5th round. Israel won the 1st, 3rd, and 4th rounds according to all 3. According to all 3 judges, the only round they gave to Alex Pereira was the 2nd round.
It makes sense. I had no argument about the judges' call there, to be honest with you. I thought Adesanya, who has had history with Pereira, I mean, this has been the fight that has been building since they were kickboxing, and Pereira has knocked out Adesanya before. This was clearly Adesanya's fight to win. Clearly. Second round was Pereira. I'm not going to take that away from him. But this was also the situation where Adesanya almost knocked him out in a round if he only had 10 seconds left. And before time expired, this is going to be game over.
Yeah.
So we have to keep that in mind. Adesanya definitely was implying more of the MMA style against him, and I think this was giving Pereira fits.
Yeah.
But I will say this, we always kind of scream this. When a fighter knows they're losing, and his coaches were telling him too, he's got to empty the tank. This was a time that when he actually listened to the coaches, look what happens.
Yeah.
Pereira had nothing to lose in that 5th round.
No,
nothing.
No, he had it all to give.
Swing like a wild man and see what you can come up with. And sure enough, he caught Adesanya. And Adesanya, I'm sorry, that was a legit stoppage.
Yeah.
You got rocked.
Like 5 or 6 times unanswered.
Yeah. There was 5 unanswered. I counted 5, but it might have been 6, though. Unanswered shots. And when you have your hands down, the ref is going to protect you. Now, I don't care how much it hurts your pride. You were done.
Yeah.
He finished you in the 5th because he just unloaded the tank. And I don't think you were expecting it. I thought in my mind, I thought Adesanya was thinking he broke his will.
Maybe.
And you can't take that. But this is something, Adesanya is a very young champion too. So this is a situation that he's going to learn from. I think the only way you do this is you do an immediate rematch. I know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any other way you can do this otherwise.
No, I mean, because looking at the rankings over at UFC.com for the middleweight division, Israel Adesanya dropped to the number 1 ranked fighter. Robert Whittaker dropped 1 spot to the number 2 ranked fighter. Jared Cannonier dropped 1 spot to the number 3 ranked fighter. Marvin Vettori also dropped 1 spot to number 4. And then you've got Derek Brunson not moving and rounding out the top 5.
Yeah. So in my mind, it's Adesanya all day.
Yeah.
I think Adesanya wants that fight too, so I don't think there's any question about making this happen. And I will say this, for Pereira, you better hope it's Adesanya. Because if you have to fight Robert Whittaker
Oh, Jesus
or
Christ.
anybody that can wrestle,
Oh, you're fucked.
you're done. The fact that you made Adesanya look like GSP in his prime,
Yeah.
that is telling.
Concerning.
That is very, very telling. You cannot handle somebody with an actual ground game. You will get taken down and you will not get back up. And if it's Robert Whittaker, oh my God. Like, listen, I don't care. Like, the odds will be tremendously against Pereira. Tremendously. If he comes out as a favorite on that and Whittaker's a dog,
Yeah.
oh my God, we're going to the casino.
I'll say if Pereira's got to go up against anybody who wrestles, to borrow that like TikTok, Instagram reel audio from a scale of 1 to 10, my friend, you're fucked.
Yeah. There's no way he will survive on the ground. There's no way he can learn it.
No.
MMA wrestling
Jesus Christ, no.
in that short of a window. There's not a physical chance. Like, he might survive a round if he's lucky. But I'm sorry, you could not handle Adesanya's ground game. What are you going to do against somebody that actually thrives there?
Can you imagine if he went up against Khabib? Khabib would fucking toy with him for 3 rounds. Khabib would just fuck with him for 3 rounds before winning.
I think he would just sit there and just be like, where do I he'd process like the Matrix, like how many ways I can take you down. Like,
I'd fucking pay to see it.
Like, you take a look at that division in that middleweight where he's going to be, he's going to be fighting in middleweight. It's almost like a who's who can wrestle. I don't think anybody there can't wrestle, to be honest with you.
Outside the top 5, you've got Paulo Costa.
He can wrestle if he wants.
Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
Jack Hermanson. Darren Till. Andre Muniz. And then Kelvin Gastelum at number 11. Nasruddin Imenov. Driscus Du Plessis. Chris Curtis. And Brad Tavares.
Yeah, I think with the exception of Darren Till, I think he's fine. I think Darren Till would be the only one that wouldn't wrestle him on the ground, to be honest with you.
Probably.
But listen, I applaud him that he stuck in there and fought. I do with Pereira. Like, he's not a joke by any means. He has knockout power for days. So if you can weather the storm and get in there and survive a shot, you can win this fight. I just think that if he has to face a Robert Whittaker, it's a wrap.
Right.
It's a wrap. I think, though, if he faces Adesanya takes him clearly in the 3rd round.
Probably.
Next time fight. I don't see it going past that. I think Adesanya is going to learn from this and come back stronger. And I think that's big for the UFC, too, because especially this causes some parity in that division, which they desperately needed. Because when you start having those champions that are untouchable, and let's face it, Adesanya was that champion. He was the next generation of Anderson Silva. He just got tagged with something. He'll bounce back.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think this causes some bit of headlines for the UFC, which they're happy to make some money off this.
Oh, yeah.
And they can definitely book this rematch. I mean, the smart play would be to do this as the co-main for Volkanovski Machev.
That would make sense.
If they can pull that off. But I don't know what they can do, but we're going to have to kind of sit back and find out. Final thoughts on the card, Pat?
Amazing card from start to finish. Certainly worth the money we spent for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought UFC 281 was probably the best card I've seen in quite some time, top to bottom from the UFC. A lot of first-round knockouts, if you go back through all the prelims as well, too. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out on ESPN Plus or wherever you catch your UFC fights. Internationally, I'm not exactly sure how that shakes up. So
yeah, I know. After a couple of days or a couple of weeks, the card will be added to ESPN Plus here in the States. Overseas, can't really say.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely be excited to watch that again on ESPN Plus. But in the meantime, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What was your thoughts about UFC 281? Definitely want to hear what Mike from the Multiverse of Badness has to say about this one. Because I tell you what, there's a lot of headlines coming out of this, especially the Fight of the Year candidate with Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier. You can't tell me otherwise. That's in that conversation. But let's talk about it, and we can definitely go from there. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Ooh, I've been dying to try this place.
Oh my god, me too. I've heard such good things about it.
Welcome to the Crime Diner. I'm Cindy. I'll be cooking for you this evening. Here are your menus.
Ooh, what are you thinking about getting?
I don't know, murder with a side of cannibalism? What about you?
Ooh, that sounds good. I'm torn between historical mayhem and the social injustice, maybe?
Oh.
I just want to let you know that each episode comes with dinner, dessert, and a specialty drink chosen by yours truly.
Wine Dine and Storytime has had a makeover, and we invite you to slide into the booth with us at the Crime Diner, where each week we will discuss a crime over dinner, drinks, and dessert. See you there!
Coming back for the final segment of this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. The first of which is obviously the local minute. Looking at the Binghamton Black Bears and how they fared last week, they had two games, both of them at home, playing the Motor City Rockers. They won their game on Friday by the final score of 6-3, and then came back and lost a heartbreaker in overtime the following night by the final score of 6-5. Looking ahead to their schedule this upcoming weekend, they split one game away, one game on the road. Both of them against the Delaware Thunder. The game on Friday is at November 18th is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That is on the road playing the Delaware Thunder. And then on Saturday, they're back home at the Visions Veterans Memorial Arena here in Binghamton. Game time 7 o'clock. So for more tickets, information, and all that good stuff, BinghamtonBlackBears.com. And then got to talk a little bit of baseball because the hot stove is starting. We're already getting some deals, and the most important of which, because there was a news story the other day, I believe it was 24 hours ago, that said the Houston Astros were signing Anthony Rizzo their top priority.
Yep.
To which I said, fuck you. No. And the Yankees must have heard my message because according to sources reading from the article on ESPN.com, the Yankees and Anthony Rizzo have agreed to a multi-year deal worth up to $51 million. The article reads, quote, Anthony Rizzo is re-signing with the New York Yankees on a multi-year deal worth up to $51 million, a source told ESPN on Tuesday. Rizzo will make $34 million over the next 2 seasons, plus a club option for 2025 that includes a $6 million buyout, a source told ESPN's Jeff Passan, bringing the total up to $40 million guaranteed. His 2025 option is for $17 million. So I think this is a great signing. You look at his numbers from the last year. He hit 32 home runs, and he had a phenomenal year, great first baseman, awesome defensively, probably the most sound and plus, probably the most sound first baseman we've had since maybe Teixeira. And
Arguably.
And Teixeira was obviously spotty the first month and a half of the season, not the case for Rizzo.
Mm-hmm.
So the high priority for them to re-sign, and I think a great signing for them.
Great signing, not the big one they need to sign, but a great one to do.
Yes.
The Yankees need a lot of work, but they do. This is something and a step in the right direction. I am just waiting on bated breath to hear about the fate of Aaron Judge. I think that is going to be the one dominating the offseason.
Yeah, that's good. That's going to be. There will be some other dominoes falling, but much in like the NFL or the NBA, there's going to be one domino that needs to fall before all the others start falling, and this is the one.
Yeah, because they haven't announced anything for the MVPs.
No, they have not. They announced the Rookie of the Years yesterday, which I know the one for the American League went to Julio Rodriguez of Seattle. I know tonight as we record, they're supposed to be announcing the Manager of the Year, which I don't fucking care who it is. It should be Rob Thompson of the Phillies.
Yeah.
And then they have, so next would be the Cy Young, and then after that would be the MVP. So we probably won't know MVP for a couple more days.
Because I want to say that we'll hear something about Judge after that.
Probably.
I think that he's waiting until after because it could go one of two ways. He's going to wait and do a joint sign that, the MVP is staying in the Bronx, or he's going to wait a couple days.
Sure.
And then say he's leaving.
Well, and I know it was reported the Yankees made him a qualifying offer, but don't read too much into it. That's just a formality.
That's a formality.
It's a formality.
I mean, they're going to test the room with him, but obviously with the drama that goes on with him there, we could talk about this for a minute.
Yeah.
He did try throwing a number at them before the season started.
Sure.
And it didn't pan out for whatever reason.
We've never heard.
We just know that whatever was thrown at him, he didn't like, the organization didn't like, it didn't get done. That's the only thing we know about.
Yep.
He bet on himself, and he went all in.
Yeah, he did.
So, and he had a phenomenal regular season.
Yep.
Playoffs, a little different story.
Yeah.
Not going to lie about it, not going to sugarcoat it. But it's nothing to take away. Like, it sounded like he wanted to stay.
Yeah.
And I think that depending on how he took this off season, and obviously them not going to the playoffs, like, listen, it is what not going to playoffs. I mean, not going to win the World Series.
Yeah.
Sorry. For me, it's like if you get to the playoffs and you don't win the World Series, it's just not even being there. But that's just me about this. It's a situation now that the Yankees have to sign him for the PR move. They're gonna overpay. And listen, I don't care.
Yeah.
At this stage,
he's worth it.
He's the face of your franchise.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose him, you don't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
You really don't.
No, you don't.
You might have some people in the farm system.
There are some people. I know Jason Dominguez. The Martian is coming up, but Christ, he's only at AA right now. He's a ways away.
Right.
And they've got some other guys coming up, but none of them in the outfield position.
No, none. Yeah, exactly. So you're not going to replace with value right now with them. You're not.
No.
So you can try spinning it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going to dispute that, but you're going to try doing it, but it's not going to work.
And you can make some sacrifices and letting some guys go. I mean, I know shortstop is one of the areas they're thinking about, but also you got to remember they've got Anthony Volpe coming up in the farm system, who all signs are pointing to he's going to be up in the majors by at least the All-Star break.
Yeah.
And he's one of, if not their top rated prospect.
Yeah, so they have some pieces they can move around, but Judge is the one that everybody's waiting to see.
Yep.
Everybody's waiting to see, and if you're saying you're either not a Yankee fan or you're lying. Mm-hmm. One of the two.
Also, hey, shout out to Jose Trevino, won the Platinum Glove Award for being one of the best defensive players in the American League.
Huge move.
Huge move.
Huge.
Which, who'd have thought when they got a hold of him in the offseason? Crazy.
No, but sometimes it pans out, so fingers crossed for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess for my base, I can only get into a couple details of right now.
Mm-hmm.
I will say we're going to talk a little wrestling.
Yep.
And I'm going to word it like this. There is a show going on this weekend that if you're interested in watching on streaming, it should be a solid card.
Might be a little long.
It might be a little long. We discussed
it's a three-letter company.
It's a three-letter company. We discussed on 607 TWS that is going to be running it, and we will be watching here at the basement on Saturday night.
Well, you will.
I will with Rich, and I'm sure Dog.
Which,
and
if you're really not picking up what we're talking about, that should give you even more clue as to what we're talking about.
Exactly, and there's kind of a reason we're not mentioning it, and we're just going to leave it like this until further notice involving that company on here. Because we have to get some clarification about something.
Yeah, we do.
So until that happens, we're just going to say if you're looking for some pro wrestling this weekend, make sure to sign up for Fight.tv Plus and check out GCW for $4.99.
Yes.
And a lot of great pro wrestling going on this weekend. You definitely want to go check that out. WWE really didn't do a lot this weekend as well.
No.
So you definitely want to support some indie pro wrestling as it's happening. And then if you want to check out that show, listen, I'm going to tell you check out the show if you're interested in it. And
if you're not sure what site they're on a site whose streaming rivals that of ESPN Plus.
Yes, but this week we're not mentioning them.
Nope. They're persona non grata.
Yeah, until some clarification. And we're just going to leave it at that. So hopefully things get worked out. If it doesn't, well, you'll be hearing about that on 607 TWS.
I'm salivating for that moment.
Yeah, so wait and stay tuned. So if you're not following 607 TWS on your favorite podcast platform, simply go to the ODPH link tree or go to the directory. We have the link for 607 TWS right then and there. You can sign up and follow because trust us, that's where we're going to be discussing that moving forward if it needs to be discussed. Until then, like I said, go support some pro wrestling. If you got some great local action wherever you live, go support that. Go get Fight Plus. Like seriously. For the GCW library alone, but there's a lot of great independent pro wrestling cards that were going on. You can definitely watch there. I'm going to give them a shameless plug. For $4.99 a month, you can't beat the deal. It is like literally old school WWE network there. Like I say, for the deal and for the value of the cards you get, it's well worth it. And you get a lot of independent pro wrestling. So definitely go check that out. And if you want to go check out the show going on this weekend too, by all means. I gave my voice about that on 607 TWS this week. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to be very, very cryptic about it until I get some clarification. And we're just going to treat it like that and end it as we can only do. For anything and everything that is the ODPH podcast, you just simply swing on over to odphpodcast.com. That's it for sports this week. For the one and only Padawan J.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. I love everybody. Thank you for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.
Gotta be down to the punch. Gotta be down to the punch. 'Cause they can't